don't even really know how to start this recording for real because technically this is something that I would leave for another format. But welcome. If you're listening to this audio, my name is Nefer. I'm the creator and owner of the Hood Botanica platform, where we discuss spirituality, religion, magic, the occult, the arcane, and the esoteric from an Afrocentric perspective. What that means is everyone is welcome. Well, we do center African, indigenous, African traditional, and African diasporic thought, culture, history, belief, and those type of things in our content, what we talk about. One of the things I always say in my live streams and in other spaces, we get into the woo-woo on my platform, but I am not your guru, okay? I am not your guru. Anything I say here or in any other space you see me is meant to be researched further. Do not take anything I say as truth or law just because I'm saying it. That's not necessarily the case. Okay. So today, like I said, normally I would leave this for another format, but some things have been happening where I feel like over time, there's a cycle that's been happening. And more, there's conversations about it here and there. It dies out, happens again, and it comes back around. So I wanted to create this audio today to kind of just give some guidelines and stuff. And basically, today I want to talk about scamming, predatory behavior, et cetera, in these spiritual spaces. Now, first and foremost, I want to give trigger and content warnings because there's going to be some sensitive content we're talking about in this conversation, right? Now, recently there have been some things online that have come up, specific things that have come up surrounding spiritual spaces, wild behavior in spiritual spaces, et cetera, right? I want to formally say that this conversation is not necessarily specifically about any recent situations. I'm not trying to call anybody out specifically or anything like that. And if you think it's about a specific person, it's probably not, right? Today, I'm going to talk about a couple of different things, but I will say some of those things have similarities to so many other spiritual situations that's happened in the past. I don't want to call them scandals because I feel like scandal sounds, it kind of dismisses them, right? But I want to give a name to these situations that happen within the online spiritual and religious spaces and that come up, I mean, every 3 months. And mind you, I don't see all of them, right? I don't see all of them. But what I wanted to say specifically in the beginning is to say that this audio is not about anything specifically. What I'm doing in this audio is I'm going to be talking about some of the red flags for spiritual newbies, people who are new to their spiritual systems, new to magical systems and things like that, and are looking for community in general, but also partly online. I want to speak to those people. And I want to lay out some red flags that I think that you should be weary of, right? I'm also going to talk to some people that have been through certain things, people who have been along their spiritual journey as well. Something that you should maybe be looking out for in your current spaces that you may be a part of. And at the end of the day, there are some situations that have happened in the past that have informed my opinion about this topic, right? So this is not to call anybody out. I'm going to work on not getting too specific on anything and keeping everything private and things like that. But mostly I want to talk about the people that are executing these things as well. So they don't deserve no privacy, the people that are harming others, right? So, as I said, we're going to have a content warning or trigger warning if needed, because we're going to be talking about sensitive topics in these spaces related to sex, related to different forms of abuse and things like that. So, if that's something you don't want to hear about or talk about at this moment, just to let you know, this is your time to bow out. All right. So, another disclaimer, or in the list of disclaimers, is I personally have had a spiritual space online for a short 8 years. That's not really a long time in the grand scheme of things. And I will say I have more experience in the spiritual and occult spaces. So I will be speaking from that perspective. I've never been part of a religious quote unquote house. So in any ATRs or anything like that. So any input from there will be from opinion or observation. Okay. At the end of the day, my platform is dedicated to covering content in the spiritual and religious spaces from an Afrocentric perspective. So in no way, shape, or form am I trying to disparage any ATR, ADR, or anything like that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not going to specify this house, this religion, that religion. This is about spaces. You feel me? And the responsibility that we have, if we're going to call ourselves spiritual practitioners, quote unquote leaders, or whatever the case is, this responsibility we have to run these spaces ethically, run these spaces in a space in a way that uplifts people and helps people on their journey if they trust us with that. And also making sure that, for me, this audio is about, instead of just letting things go by and tweeting that people need to have discernment, I wanted to create something that lays out some things that y'all should be mindful of. Because for me personally, I will say there's been a blind spot, and sometimes I forget that new people are coming into the spiritual spaces every day. New people are opening up to their spirituality for the first time, quote unquote, every day. So sometimes I think to myself, well, everybody, people know this stuff. You know, my followers, my supporters, whatever the case, people who follow me, they know this stuff. They've seen this stuff, but that's not always the case. So a part of the intention of creating this, again, was not to call out anything specifically, but to point out patterns based on experience and observation so that we can minimize the amount of this happening over and over and over again. And we can call out these things in a list, you feel me? In a list that people can access. I'm sure other people have done it before as well, to look out for, instead of just talking about discernment or tweeting about people needing to have discernment. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what this is for. Primarily, I'm talking to my audience, the people who already follow me, the people who are interested in the content I'm talking to, but I know this may go to other audiences. So at the end of the day, these are my opinions. You don't have to agree with anything I say or move in this way. Okay? You don't. At the same time, a lot of the cleansings, cord cuttings, many of the cleanup of these online quote unquote scandals or issues have been performed by either me or one of my colleagues. So my experience comes from actual workings used in the aftermath of some of these things. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to tell nobody business. This is simply the truth. This is simply the truth. Another thing I wanted to say is I don't necessarily label myself as a spiritualist, but specifically as an occultist. And I think that informs my decisions and my conversations and what I'm going to talk about today. All right. In the occult sciences and spaces, most of the attention is not focused on the quote unquote magical master or the mentor, but on the neophyte or the student. Okay. So in occult spaces, students, newbies, whatever you want to call it, this is what neophyte means, like newbie. Neophytes are expected to have the main role in their spiritual and magical ascension. Y'all are the main person. You are driving the vehicle. In these spaces, mentors serve as simple guides and often are very vague and distant from their mentees, forcing the mentee to seek things for themselves, okay? And this has been my experience. Now, again, the reason I make the distinctions to say I don't label myself a spiritualist, but an occultist, is because there's different practices within different occult sciences that inform what I'm talking about. So again, as mentors in magical spaces or occult spaces, you are meant to be simply a guide. Simply a guide. And again, mentors are often very vague, elusive, kind of distant, forcing spiritual mentees or magical mentees to go out and seek for themselves. Oftentimes, a mentor will just hand you a book, disappear for 5 weeks, and come back and say, "What have you learned?" And if they decide that what you tell them you have learned is adequate, then they'll move you to the next level. But if they don't, then they'll disappear for another 5 weeks, right? So again, in my opinion, this is kind of different from how online spaces move in the spiritual spaces and even some of the religious spaces. So I got a couple things. I wrote down a couple of things or whatever. So if you hear me pausing and stuff, I'm looking at the list to make sure I say everything I want to say. Again, this is not about creating content or just hopping on, XYZ. This is mainly about information and education, number one. And number two, I ain't even gonna hold y'all. I'm mad. I'm kind of upset. I'm kind of annoyed. You understand what I'm saying? That things like this keeps happening, that people are able to do this to others and then rinse, recycle, and repeat with a whole set of new people on another app. That happens all the time. Rebrand like an MFer. I'm gonna try not to curse on this one, but I might. So just letting you know that. but I try to give it some organization as much as possible so I get these things out. But again, this conversation, or I'm saying this part for the first time, this conversation is long overdue. And for too long, I've seen things, I've been involved in things in the sense of having to do certain cleansings and things like that, as well as customer complaints, conversations. People have come to me over the years about having to deal with XYZ practitioner or having to get cleansed from their advice that was misaligned. I'm not going to call it bad or good, but misaligned advice, let's say. So again, I'm not speaking about anybody specifically until I am. When I am, I'll let y'all know that. And I don't want anyone to take this as something, a response or something specifically to them. This is about recognizing the patterns over the years and just getting to a point where I'm tired of it and I'm going to say something. And more than just tweets, because tweets go away, right? So I plan on making this into a blog post that sits on my site. But I really wanted to do an audio so that we could talk through it and really have the conversation for real. And I could get my points out without feeling like, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, cool. That was a whole introduction, 36 minutes. One of the first things I want to say, and these are going to go across different starter set red flags list and things like that, different things I've heard over time, different things that I know that new spiritual practitioners, people who are not spiritual practitioners, rather people who are new to their spirituality and are seeking spiritual practitioners. This is a pattern that has happened that I've heard about over the last 8 years. So again, any of these things that come up, if it sounds like it's somebody specific or something specific, that was not my intention. My intention is to point out patterns that have happened and put them in one space so that people going forward can have a resource so they can start to avoid some of these things or at least be more vigilant toward these things. Again, when these things happen, everybody tells y'all need to have discernment, but there ain't nobody telling you how to get the discernment. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How to get the discernment. What does the discernment look like in these spaces? Okay. First and foremost, in a lot of these situations, one of the first red flags or one of the first things that you need to be mindful of is excessive flattery, love bombing, that type of thing. You're so powerful, you're so special, you're so chosen, you do one XYZ. This is meant to make you reliant on their validation. Now, this may go into a whole nother conversation, right? But let me be the one to tell you. Let Neff be the one to tell you, okay? They're not wrong. You the one, baby. You the one, not the two, for your life. You get what I'm saying? And the reason I'm telling you this is so that when anybody else tells it to you, you understand that they're just recognizing the divinity within you, that's within them, and so on and so forth, right? I don't mean to sound necessarily crass, but technically, none of us are any more special or powerful than the other or protected than the other. I know people like to do that and have that spiritual hierarchy in their mind, but not necessarily. I said it the other day on Twitter. Anybody could get touched. Anybody, you know what I'm saying? So, yes, you are special and powerful and chosen, and also not any more special, powerful, or chosen than anyone else. So, when people are doing this, they're recognizing a divinity within you, and it doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. It just means that, well, yeah, girl, duh. It don't take all day to recognize sunshine, beloved. Of course they see that you're powerful because you're powerful. Yeah. So let me be the one to tell you so that as you go out in these spaces, this doesn't have to fall on ears that's never heard it before. One of the problems, which is another conversation, is the pastor went and told us that our righteousness was as filthy as rags and stuff. So then we leave the church and we go into spiritual spaces. And when people tell us the opposite, it attracts us naturally. But that's another conversation for another day. I don't know why the pastor didn't say, ye are gods and children of the Most High, which is in the book as well. But this is not a hood Bible study. Let's proceed. Let me take that verse and tell you, ye are gods. Yeah. So one of the things I've based my platform on is that the power is in you. The power is in you. Any product I have, any service I have is meant to remind you and awaken something within you. You are the vehicle. And I may refer to things that I practice, and this is not to say that I'm better or worse or anything like that, but these are some of the ways that I keep myself protected from encountering certain issues as well as someone who has a spiritual space. Again, you ain't got to do nothing but stay black and live. You don't have to do nothing I say. You don't have to agree with me, right? I'm giving my opinion. You the one, babes. You got it. It's you. In that same vein, you are the only head of your spiritual life, you're the only one of your spiritual journey. You are the sovereign ruler of your head, of your spiritual walk, of your spiritual journey. You, nobody else. I don't care, babes. I know there's other religions and these religions say this and that and whatever. That's cool. One of the reasons I'm not in some of those religions, because unfortunately, the doctrines of some of these religions say that, but the way that they're being executed in practice is not is not is not the same. Okay? So, first one is you the one, babes. You the one, you the head of your spiritual walk. You're the head of your spiritual journey. You may feel like you don't know this or you don't know that, or there's so many people that know more. And that is a call to learn. Absolutely. But that is not a call to put someone over your life, especially not internet people. Okay? Especially not internet people. You don't know these people. How they know you so powerful? Through the Twitter. You understand what I'm saying? And you know what? You are that powerful. They see it off the tweets too. They see it off the comments. They see it radiating. As they should, beloved. As they should. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And again, Mercury just went direct, but we in the shadow. It's Tuesday, Mars Day. And I want to make sure that I'm speaking with clarity and I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean to be offensive. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not talking about victim blaming or shaming. I'm trying to show y'all the patterns that have come up. And if I sound passionate, it's because I'm actually mad. You understand what I'm saying? I'm mad for the many, many people over the years who have come to me with stories about exploitation and worse from spiritual practitioners. I'm angry for them. When these things happen, people go in the comments and say, "I'm so sorry this happened to you." And I'm not talking bad about that, but I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm mad for you. I Sorry is just not what I feel in this moment. I'm angry. I'm angry for you. You understand what I'm saying? So if you feel passion or feel a way behind what I'm saying, again, you don't have to do anything, but it's that's where it's coming from, because there are things that I can't speak on for client privacy that have happened over the years that, baby, if I told y'all these stories, it would rock you. So I'm angry. And I just want to, make that clear. I'm being a little long-winded, but this going to be a long one. Listen, if you in my membership, you already know how long my joints be. I'm a yap. This wasn't going to be no blog post. I got to say what I got to say. Let's keep going. Alrighty. One of the second red flags is cutting you off from other spiritual teachers, mentors, or traditions. Okay. Now, let me say here before I already hear the fingers typing. Closed spaces and traditions are valid and should be respected. And people also use that to their advantage. People also use that closed spaces, traditions, and things like that to their advantage. Some of the systems I practice are closed spaces, are secretive, have their secrets, have these things, right? And admittedly, y'all, some of my products do not work well with other people's products. They just don't. They don't. That is the truth. So I'm giving this disclaimer with somewhat of a grain of salt, because those things are true and valid and should be respected. At the same time, when it comes to control, you're not allowed to, that type of thing, that's when it gets funny. That's when it gets funny. Now, I've had some issues with people trying to scam my customers, actively, successfully scamming my customers and things like that, and having to hear about the aftermath with it. And they were using my name to do so. They were telling people that my products didn't work, but they should send all of my products to them. So now they going around and gathering my products from my customers, saying my shit don't work. so they could use it all for themselves. Well, shortly thereafter, everything came down. It all came falling down. And I'm going to talk more about throughout this, I'm going to talk more about that situation because that's a situation that specifically happened in a space where people were being scammed, not necessarily in the sense of they scammed me, but they were using my brand to help scam others. And because going to the closed spaces, because at the time I was talking about a system of magic that is closed, that is not open to everyone else, they were able to use that to their advantage. And when people were asking me for classes on the system, and I was saying no, because it's a closed system, they were going behind and telling people, hey, I'm in a special class with Nefer learning this closed system, and I will teach it for you for $1,500. Now, personally, side note, don't know how that made sense because if I won't teach it to you publicly, why would I be teaching it to them and authorizing them to teach it to you? But that is not the point of this conversation. But they will be brought up through this conversation and made examples. Yep, sure will. Yep. I'm not going to get into specific things that happen with my current clientele, but I will be talking about them and using them as examples so you understand the type of conniving that people can do in these spaces. I want you to be aware of that and vigilant. You don't need to be scared in the sense of, okay, you don't talk to no one, you don't know nothing. I mean, I get it. You want community. And sometimes in-person community is not as accessible as online community. That's understandable and valid. But understanding that whether in person or online, you have to have that vigilance, right? As you build your discernment, you may not have your discernment yet. You may not feel like your intuition is that strong yet, but you have your vigilance. You can keep your eyes open. You can keep your eyes peeled, right? Now, the other thing I often say about discernment is that I think that a lot of people believe that when we step into spirituality, the discernment or the intuition feels somehow different than any other nudge that we get. When you're hungry, you have a feeling in your gut and you know what to do with it. When you have to use the bathroom, you have a feeling in your gut and you know what to do with it. Now, we've known and heard that all of our nerves bundle up in our stomach somewhere, and it's seen as the second brain. So when you step into spiritual spaces, that same gut feeling that you're getting, that same bubble guts that you may be feeling when someone says something or someone, it's the same place, it's the same space. It's not a different space. You know, let me be, if no one has told you, let me be the first to tell you that your spirituality is not fighting against your materiality. Your spirit is not fighting against your body. Your body is the vehicle for your spirit. They move in tandem, beloved. So listen to your body. Listen to, you're not tripping. You're not tripping. And even if you are tripping, okay, what's the worst that can happen when you trip? They block you? All right, well, you just followed them like 3 weeks ago. They're not the alpha and omega of spiritual knowledge. It doesn't start and stop with them. It starts and stops with you. There will always be spiritual teachers. There will always be spiritual mentors. There will always be magical mentors out there. Now, whether they are aligned or ethical, that's another conversation. But y'all don't have to feel fearful that if this practitioner or whatever blocks you, like your spirituality is something's gonna happen or you're gonna be cut off from spirit. That's not possible. That's not possible, beloved. So let's continue. The next one is financial exploitation. And this one is a little bit more blatant, but sometimes it's not. So these ideas like you need $5,000 ritual to break your generational curse, that combination of the urgency and the high cost is a manipulation tactic, especially if they're not transparent about what they're doing. It's not itemized. What is the $5,000 doing, babes? Do you need to get candles? Do you need to get a goat? Do you need to travel to Mount Kilimanjaro to do the ritual? Girl, what is this band's about? What's happening? In the spiritual spaces, y'all, in the occult spaces, but also in the academic spaces. In my opinion, this is my opinion. In my opinion, when someone has a spiritual or ritual service or product, the healing, benefits, whatever that you get from that product should at least be worth what you paid for it, or be able to make you back that money. I say make you back that money because of like courses and stuff like that. But babes, what are you doing to break my generational curse? Are you sitting and meditating about it? Because I can do that. No shade. I got crystals and tarot too, baby. This is not demeaning anybody's quote unquote authority. But girl, who are these niggas? Who are these people? I'm so sorry. I really wanted to keep it real respectful and keep it on the outline. Who are these motherfuckers? Who are these motherfuckers? Who are these people? Internet people with followers? Yo, let me tell y'all something. Actually, I'm gonna keep it to the end. Let's keep going to the with the list. Next one, and this is a big one. And this is something people not going to agree with me with. But anytime you are in a spiritual or magical space and there is any type of physical attraction, sexual attraction, romantic attraction, or advances or flirting, there should be a sharp line drawn. I don't care. I don't care what you have to say. I'm not here to demonize sex. It is a part of a spiritual experience. I talk about sex on my platform. But as soon as these conversations become personal, they go off on the side, you feel a little flirt, a sharp line needs to be drawn. I'm not saying that you have to block the person. You may be attracted to them too. But at that point, they can no longer be your spiritual mentor by definition, beloved. They cannot. I don't care. Most of the people talking about sex magic do not know what they're talking about. And I'm not trying to start throwing jabs. They don't know what they're talking about, beloved. I don't care what you got to say. This may sound elitist, whatever you want to call it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. These people, even if and this goes both ways, if you following a spiritual practitioner, I'm gonna let y'all know right now, or a magical practitioner, sometimes it happens. You may feel an attraction to your spiritual or magical practitioner simply because there is something that they're vibrating that you want to hit as a goal, whether that's spiritual or magical prowess, power, whatever you want to call it. So there will be attraction, and some people confuse that for romantic attraction. But if you in your brain and in your heart confirm, hey, I may be attracted to this person, you need to draw the line. They can no longer be your spiritual practitioner. I don't even care if it's unrequited type of thing. And they draw the line. Draw the line. Find somebody else. Find somebody else, because that is the number one, that is a thread that happens throughout a lot of these spiritual situations. Nobody's talking about it, and it's not about victim blaming. It's about understanding that sex can be spiritual, but there is a line, and it is sharp. It is a sharp line, and it's not a fine line either. It's a thick Helvetica bold line. It's thick, and it should not be crossed. And this is not to say that if you meet somebody in a spiritual capacity and find out y'all are attracted and want to whatever, that you can't date, but that can no longer be your mentor. You understand what I'm saying? At that point, that is no longer your mentor. That is your man. That is your girl. That is your them. That is your they. That's your partner. And maybe y'all do spiritual things together. They may teach you things here and there, but the role of a mentor and mentee is official. It's an official role. Teacher, student, master, adept, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as it translates into romantic, even if it's just one-sided, you need to draw the line in every situation. I don't care how good their content is. I don't care. I don't care. Okay? You can disagree with me though. You have that right because you're in charge of your own mind. So you have that right to disagree with me. But it keeps things clean. It keeps things clear. You understand what I'm saying? There are people who have been in my spaces that offer readings, different readings of different types, and everybody tells me, oh, you should get a reading from so and so. You should get, I can't get a reading from so and so because I'm attracted to that person. I'm not making no moves or any advances, but objectively, this is an attractive person. This is someone that I might date. So I'm not getting no readings. We could kiki on a timeline. I could do a little retweet, pop a little emo. I could pop up in a live. But when it comes to a formal one-on-one setting where you're reading my energy, no, no, absolutely not. No, because these are different realms. And again, I'm not talking about education. There's education, there's healing, there's all types of those things. But as soon as you personally get involved, passes, flirtation, all of that stuff, you have to draw the line. You have to draw the line. And you can't expect some quote unquote practitioner to draw the line for you. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate, period. And not that the pass is inappropriate, not that the flirting is inappropriate, not that the attraction is inappropriate, but continuing to facilitate or continuing to be a part of a mentor, mentee, or teacher, adept, whatever the case is, dynamic after that's been out in the open, that's what's inappropriate. That's what's inappropriate. Baby, we cute. We fine. Obviously, there's gonna be, I mean, I'm looking at you looking good. I'm looking good. You looking good. Okay. Ain't nobody demonizing that. But once we acknowledge that, okay, babes, well, now we have a responsibility. Now is where the responsibility comes up. And this has happened over and over and over again. You get what I'm saying? All right, next one. You gotta, this is one that's kind of general in a sense, but you gotta watch for like creating a dependence. Them creating a situation where you're dependent on them, right? So this could look like discouraging you from making your own decisions or connecting with spirit on your own. Discouraging you from, obviously, again, this has to be taken with a grain of salt because there are some things I can say from the occult spaces and stuff like that. There are some things that are dangerous for newbies, right? So there's things that I'll tell y'all, like I'll tell my students, my audience, or whatever the case is, like, don't go out doing this for what? But you can go research it. You can go research it. True guidance is going to help you grow, right? You should always be making your own decisions. You know what's best for your life. Even if you think you don't, even if your parents told you didn't, your teachers you told you didn't, your pastors told you don't, you know what's best for your life because it's your life, beloved. It's very simple. Let's get to the next one. Manipulating the divine for guilt. Spirit says you have to listen to me. My spirits say that, da, da, da. No one has sole access to God on your behalf. That is Christian, medieval Christian Vatican bullshit. No one has more access to spirit than you, babes. No one, no one, no one has more access to your spirits than you. No one has more access to your ancestors than you. I remember I was in Ross one time and a lady came up to me and said, "You look like you would be open to some type of like you look like you like your ancestors." She said she like, "You look like you believe in ancestors and spiritual stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And she was like, "Well, your ancestors have a message for you." And I was like, I don't need no reading. I read myself." And she's like, "Oh, you can't read for yourself. Like I'm the only, like someone else can only tell you these messages." Now, how Gloria, how that's gonna work? How you have more access to my DNA than me? That doesn't make sense. And again, I know for newbies and people listen to this retroactively, you may not feel that way right now, but it is the truth. No one has more access to your ancestors than you. There are people who have sharpened their intuition over time. There are people who have sharpened their spiritual gifts over time. Don't get it twisted. But at the end of the day, you are the authority over your life. You have access to God, spirit, source, your ancestors. You have access to them, especially when it comes to your ancestors, beloved. Especially when it comes to your ancestors, they're in your DNA, they're in your blood, they're in the coding of your cells, babes. How can someone else have more access to them than you? How? You may need to sharpen yourself. Don't get it twisted. That is part of the journey. That is part of the journey. In my opinion, these things should be in place in these houses and in these mentorships and in these teachings There should be things that teach you how to sharpen it for yourself. But if the only way that you can access your spirits is if you pay them, just go back to church, babes. Just go back to church. What's the difference? What's the difference? Next one, isolating you from community. Isolating you from other, especially others in the community or communities they got you from. Like I said, those people, I call them you don't know what I want to call. You don't want to know what I call them. We call them the coven. You feel me? And that's derogatory, by the way. Not that covens are bad, but they thought they was a coven and they wasn't. You feel me? But these people isolated people that followed me and others. It wasn't only people that followed me. They isolate people that followed me and others from contacting and working with other spiritual entrepreneurs, down to telling people to send them my products. Don't use any other products. This product is this product is that. Only do what we're telling you. We know the ultimate path. Babes, mind you, everybody the same age. Girl, I don't care if Methuselah come down and try to guide me. Who is you? I'm open. Of course, I'm open to teachers. I'm open to elders. I'm open. But at the end of the day, nothing anybody says is going to have ultimate sovereignty over how I feel about a situation, especially when it comes to spirituality and magic. I don't care what you tell me. And I know a lot of people on timeline think I do it to be contrarian, but no. I'm gonna challenge the eclipse magic. I'm gonna challenge all these conversations niggas having, because who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? Now that may be just my disposition, but I've carried that into the spiritual and magical spaces and it's protected me in a lot of different situations. Who are you to tell me? This is not about defiance and this is not about being open to learn. I'm super open to learn until you tell me that I can't do this or I can't do that or I can't go here or I can't go there. I'm a grown ass woman, babe. I'm 36 years old. You could actually kiss my ass. I'm being so serious with y'all. You could actually kiss my ass. And to be honest with you, I really don't care how long somebody been practicing. Motherfuckers come on the timeline and tell you they've been practicing something for 25 years and they 28. What the fuck? Girl, so in preschool you was doing voodoo? That's what we talking about right now? Understanding it fully, esoterically, occult from the top to the bottom? Please stop. Let's please stop. Don't let these people telling you. And the thing is, people be making shit up. People be making numbers up. I could have started this and been like, oh, I've had this paid for 30 years. I've been a spiritual practitioner for 30 years. I started when I was 6 because I had a dream. That's fine, beloved. But just because you have spiritual gifts or spiritual insight or spiritual attunement, which by the way, everybody on this planet has access to, does not mean that you are equipped to guide others. It does not mean you're equipped to guide others one-on-one or in a group. And even if you're able to do that, it does not mean you're equipped to do that online. These are different spaces that require different things, literally. So honestly, y'all, I'm gonna tell you like that too. This all I've been a spiritual practitioner for 30 years and I'm 31 and it's when I came out the womb I came out reciting the major arcana of the tarot. That don't mean that they have more knowledge than you in relation to guiding you through a journey. It don't. People not gonna like that, but I don't care. And also people can make things up. People can make, I could say it's been 8 years, I could say it's been 10 years, I could say it's been 12 years, I could say it's been 50 years. Y'all don't know me. So I could just say anything. The biggest one, which is the next red flag, but one of the biggest one is the shaming or the isolating you for questioning them. Baby, if you ask a question about a spiritual or magical topic that someone is talking about and they feel a way about you questioning them, baby, that is the discernment kicking right there. They should not block you, feel a way for asking a question about something they're talking about. That don't make no sense. Your doubt is blocking your blessings. You question me, but girl, what? Girl, what? Who? Okay. I'm trying not to yell because I am actually mad. Who are these niggas? Who are these motherfuckers, bro? For real. Get the fuck out of here, bro. A lot of these people talking about guiding and mentorship and shit, their life is shit. Objectively. I'm not throwing no shade. Objectively, their life is shit. They hate they shit. They come on the timeline and tell y'all all the time how they hate their life and the aspects of their life they hate. Who are these niggas? None of them have a thought. I don't care how old they are. Listen, I'm 36 years old, and one of them women in the coven, I was gonna say another word, 67 years old, twice my age. I had to check her. I had to check her. We said to her, because another mage colleague that was involved was in the Zoom during the confrontation. But we said to her, my girl, you're in your 60s. Well, how did you let this happen? How did you let this happen? I've had to check people twice my age off of how they move ethically and spiritually and how they conduct themselves spiritually or as a quote unquote teacher. Don't let age fool you, G. That don't mean shit. It's a bunch of old fools out here. Let me take some water. I'm getting a little hot now. Again, I'm not mad at y'all. I'm not mad at y'all. I'm not victim blaming. I'm the passion that's coming by is for the people that's doing this to y'all. Okay? So I have a couple of points from there. I haven't numbered these or whatever, but babes, if you feel something strange, explore it. Use your intuition and also your logic. Okay? For some reason, people believe that spirituality and logic are enemies, that magic and science are mortal enemies. I don't understand why. Logic has its place in your spirituality. Your spirits are not illogical, they are not ignorant. They do not want you to do things that are going to harm you. That don't make no sense. If it's your quote unquote spiritual court. There are many things within the systems of magic I practice that I will tell people if you do this, wait 3 months, wait 6 months, da da da. But it is not an all around ban. Y'all gonna do what y'all want to do regardless. But the one thing that's not going to happen is not me putting out the certain warnings and parameters of things that could happen. Because again, specifically within the occult spaces, there's a lot more at stake. There's a lot deeper things that we're getting into. Obviously, occult means hidden. So when we're talking about these hidden things that have been hidden for millennia, they need to be approached with caution because there are dangers, real life dangers, not ghost story dangers, babes, real life dangers. I think people think because we're referring to spirit and spirits that logic doesn't have its place, but you're also dealing with people and your life. Most of the spirits you have to worry about have bodies. They're people. That's the spirits you have to worry about. And nobody has more access to spirit than you. They may have fine-tuned the radio a little bit better, a little bit longer. They have access to their spirits, but not yours. Not more than you, babes. Okay. So again, you are the number one spiritual authority over your life. And in these spaces, again, sometimes in these spaces, good or great advice will challenge your old ideas and make you feel uncomfortable. But that's completely different from feeling literally uncomfortable in your bones, feeling the heebie-jeebies, someone telling you something that makes you feel unsettled. That's different from shadow work. Does that make sense? And y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all do know what I'm talking about. Another one that I wanted to mention is that you should be meeting up with people in public spaces or events. These internet people, if you flying out and all this stuff that I be hearing over the years, you need to meet in public spaces or a formal event at a public spaces. There is no need to be in someone's physical house or residence. That may annoy some people. I don't care. You don't need to be in my house and I'm carrying out some ritual. Like it's not necessary, bro. It's not necessary. There are ways around things. You understand what I'm saying? And I understand. Again, certain religions, certain members of certain religions may say, you know what? No, but this is private. It needs to be here and da da da. Okay, that's fine. I'm talking to the spiritual newbies that just learned a little something about a little something. that's wet behind the ears, and you don't need to be flying out to nobody's house. There's some things and some rituals that can only be done physically. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you paying $5,000, $10,000, they should be able to get a little Airbnb off that off your joint. Y'all, we have to protect ourselves. You understand what I'm saying? And that's come specifically from these people that was doing weird ass shit, flying people out, talking about to come to their spiritual house so they can do a ritual and open the gates of who knows what the fuck. Girl, why y'all using y'all air miles to go see these charlatans in person? No, let them throw a little event at a park. Meet up at a damn coffee shop, girl. I don't need to be in your house where your girl. No, no. These people, it was three of them specifically. People always tell me like, give them the give us their at names. Girl, they ain't on social media no more. You think they still on social media? No. These people, I'll give y'all the tea. These people were customers of mine. And they would hop up in lives and this and that and the third. And over time, I started noticing certain things that I really didn't gel with. And less I started bringing them and responding to them in comments and different things like that. One of them was literally copying my shop and my products, bar for bar, product for product. At some point, they came to me and told me that someone was in an issue and they were coming to me to find out what they should do to help the person. So, first of all, first and foremost, I understand we're all on our journey, but maybe you shouldn't be having any clients or clientele or anything on those lines if you have to come to me to ask for advice and what you should do and things like that. Maybe you should be doing a little bit more learning, but okay. And they came to me and told me that they basically step up and help people when people can't get to me. And I told them, no, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. Do not do that. Y'all don't work for me. Y'all don't move how I move. And I made it very explicit that that was something that they were not supposed to do. And they continue to do it anyway. And of course, all things come to the light. But they were having people fly out to their houses so they could collect my products from people. They were opening to get the gates to, claiming to open the gates to the Kemetic gates of this and that and the third. Bullshit. And they were basically taking things that I wasn't teaching and telling people that they were going to teach them, putting up pre-orders for courses that were never delivered, and telling people my products didn't work. Now, prior to all of this happening, I approached them and some other practitioners that had followed me specifically to talk about getting together to see what things we were teaching and what overlapped so that we could collab. We could do different things. As soon as we got in that Zoom, niggas started talking about houses and how people were going to be under them in these hierarchies. And I said, nope. I bowed out and I'm good off of all of that. I bowed out immediately because people have this thing where they realize that people like somebody or something you're saying is resonating, and all of a sudden it turns authoritative, and now they want to be the number one stunner, the guru, the have the, like, okay, what? The way that that turned out, just to fast forward because it's a long quest and long story, but the way that that turned out is that they ended up flying someone out who told them that they had mental health issues, and they claimed that through their spiritual rituals, they would be able to help with these mental health issues. Red fucking flag. Okay. The person flew out. They did the ritual in the woods, and the person had a psychotic break in their care, in their spiritual care. That's the reason you can't find them on social media no more, because the person was going to sue them and press charges. So that's the reason I can't tell you, oh, watch out for this person, because they deleted them socials, because they got themselves in some mess. And I tell my students in the occult realms, you have to take your time, because you can lose your mind. People think that I'm tripping. I'm exaggerating when I say that on the timeline. You can lose, you can. You can. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, and it's not worth it over a couple spiritual points with a couple of sky daddy deities and shit. It's not. After that, they kept that under wraps and continued scamming, tried to pivot from there, but at that point, everything was breaking down. Truths were being revealed. I had found out things other people that because I wasn't the only person they were doing this with and taking content from and whatever. And we confronted them. Low-key ambushed them, not gonna lie. Made it seem like we were calling to talk and we haven't talked in such a long time. And then we just laid out everything. They were stuttering, confused, shook, and the like. I popped off. Y'all have never seen me black out like that. Okay. But that's another story. One of them did end up in some mental issues as well, because of the stress of everything was going on. But also, one thing that I want to tell y'all, that's another thing to look for, spiritual newbies and practitioners. People with real spiritual gifts still scam. Because that's the thing. Sometimes when we hear scamming, we think that it's like a false person, someone selling snake oil. Bitches be psychic and still scam. Again, psychic power or whatever you want to call it. Everyone has access to psychic power, intuition, sixth sense, whatever you want. Everyone on this earth. You understand what I'm saying? So someone being delivering an accurate reading doesn't mean that they're a good or ethical practitioner at all. Doesn't mean they'll stay a good or ethical practitioner. I mean, when these people first came in my spaces and stuff like that, they was reading down. They was reading down. But do not take prophecy as an automatic cosign. As I tell y'all, in the occult studies, when we look at demonology, demons give accurate prophecy, despite what the church has told you. Despite what the church has told you, within the occult realms, demons very rarely lie. Lying is not a component of demons and demonology in general. And I'm saying that not to get too whatever, but I'm saying that to say is that just because someone can predict something accurately or pull a couple of paper rectangles and tell you something general that resonates with you, doesn't mean they have ownership over your spiritual life. Mentors, teachers, they're meant to guide you through a practical process. So they might be able to teach you how to do a protection ritual, but they're not responsible for your protection. They may teach you how to do a cord cutting ritual or an abundance ritual, but they're not responsible for your abundance. Once you are instructed how to do something from a teacher, now it is your responsibility. I do group ceremonies and group spells all day. I have them weekly. And I tell my group spell participants every single email, the candle is going to be, I'm doing a group spell. I'm getting the things done. At the same time, the real work starts when the candle goes out. Y'all are in charge of the work and the thought process and the things and the actions you take for when that candle goes out. I'll do my incantations, I'll do the conjurations and such, but it's on you. I can sit here and do 12 spells for you to get a job, but if you never put out the resume, I mean, girl, come on now. It's the same thing. You get what I'm saying? So literally, even if you think you're tripping, you're going through XYZ program or you're following this person and you think you're tripping, that's an opportunity for shadow work. Either way, you have your own guidance system. Okay? And the other thing for real is most people online are just not ethically equipped to formally, spiritually mentor or teach folks in that capacity one-on-one, and that's just the truth. Now, again, teaching is a little bit different. I'm talking more so the mentorship, the godfather, the guru, the godmother, that type of energy. And again, not to disparage any specific religion in our culture, there's reasons why we had these things in place religiously throughout the times. But I just personally, y'all, and it may be pessimistic, but I just don't feel that these online people that just got a couple of followers because of a viral TikTok are actually equipped to formally mentor people. I just don't believe that, babes. It's literally been 3 weeks. You had one viral video. I mean, it is what it is. It's the truth. And people don't like that. Again, I'm 36 years old and I've had to check quote unquote spiritualists twice my age for how they let their quote unquote spiritual spaces run and how they let the younger people run rampant and do bullshit. I told that lady to her face, well, Zoom, but I told that lady to her Zoom face, how did you let this happen? You the OG. You're literally an elder. You get the senior discount at IHOP, ho. Not all old people deserve the title of elder, and I know that's something people not gonna like. But at the end of the day, too, and this is something that I wanted to talk about, and again, people may not like this, but the other side of it, and I'll wrap up after this, the other side of it is that the people who are doing good work, the people who are doing the right work, the people that are warning you and being authentic, y'all are paying them dust. Y'all are not retweeting. Y'all are not sharing. Y'all are not purchasing with them. You're collecting their wisdom. You're collecting their wisdom and taking your little points, but you're not supporting them for real. You're not sharing them for real. You're not, you want to keep it to yourself. And, or these scammers come and do this predatory ass shit, right? And then you close yourself off from ever trying to heal that part of you so that you can go forward. I believe spiritual mentors, magical mentors, magical elders, things like that, those things are necessary. But so many times I see people who are doing good work, crowdfunding on the timeline, and the scammers are paid up. Why? Because they have a lot of followers. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Spiritual power and prowess and followers are not necessarily related. Some people just tweet a lot or post a lot or are good at marketing. But just because someone has a lot of followers doesn't mean that they may be aligned with you. They may be a good spiritual practitioner, and I don't like using good and bad, but they may be a ethical spiritual practitioner, morally aligned with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their system is even for you. That's another thing. It's a day by day thing. And throughout your journey, there's going to be different spiritual and magical teachers and life teachers that you have, right? You went to first grade, you had a teacher. You went to second grade, you had another teacher. You went to third grade, you had another teacher. Most of y'all didn't have the same teacher from first to 12th grade, maybe unless you were homeschooled, but even at that point, you weren't taught the same curriculum. Another red flag is if you don't feel like it's been months and you don't feel like you're moving through anything. That may not be that may be someone trying to hold information for you and keeping you dependent, or that could just mean that they're inadequate. These things need structure. They do. I had to learn how to structure courses properly and do these type of things to walk into these type of spaces and responsibilities so that everybody could understand. Like some people are not doing that, babes. They throwing on Zoom, charging you $500 to sit and chill with them for them to repeat bullshit that you hear on Tumblr. If something rubs you the wrong way, I don't care how many followers the person has. But the thing is, and I'm gonna end it here, support the spiritual practitioners that are doing the things because so many of them are closing and have closed their shop because people don't appreciate them. Fellow practitioners, magicians, whatever, they tell me about how y'all talk to them in the emails. How y'all talk crazy to them when y'all don't get certain things when y'all want? How come y'all don't talk crazy to these scammers? I'll never hear y'all talking crazy to these people that come out with these. I mean, come on. Y'all know where and who to talk to because y'all scared they're gonna hex you. If you scare somebody finna hex you, you shouldn't be dealing with them. You shouldn't be dealing with them. So unfortunately, I hope this doesn't sound, I'm not trying to victim blame, victim shame, because a lot of times when these situations come up and people point out real things, people call it victim blaming and victim shaming. But if we don't talk about it, it's finna keep happening. I really don't want it to sound like that, babes. But the other thing is when y'all come out on the other side of these things, number one, it's not an invitation to create your own spiritual space now and mentor others just because you left a spiritual space where you that's not necessarily always the call. That's number one. Number two, when y'all leave people that you're aligned with because you feel like they're not giving you, they gatekeeping or whatever the case is, when they're trying to be ethical about some of these topics, and y'all go do these things with these other people that don't know what they're doing. And when y'all come back, make sure you spend the same money that you were spending with the scammers. Make sure you spending the same time and shouting them out that you were spending with the scammers. It has to be said. I gave y'all what y'all should look for. I piped y'all up. I gave y'all, you know what I'm saying, flowers. And this, and also this. Because more and more, the people that are really equipped, the people that I've seen step in and help victims of these spiritual scams and predatory practices, they're not on the timeline anymore, beloved, because y'all don't appreciate them and y'all don't pay them because someone else scammed you. And unfortunately, beloved, that's not really fair in general. There's a part of you that has to understand that this wasn't meant, this was placed on your journey for a reason. I'm not saying that, oh, well, they did this horrible thing to you so you could learn from it, da da da. But since it happened, learn from it because we can't go back in time. Learn from it and pour flowers into the people that are helping you and have to pull you up out of these messes and out of these holes and out of this mud. While the scammers scrub their page, change their ad and do a little photo shoot and go on to scamming more. I commend y'all that call these people out. Call them out. You should be calling them out. I commend those of y'all that take your responsibility and have the hindsight and the maturity to say, you know what? Here, here, and here is where I fucked up. I commend y'all that are able to say, you know what? This was wrong and I can learn from this. Both things are true. I respect it and I commend it. And it didn't happen for no reason. I'm not saying people harming you is, I'm not doing that. Don't be silly, y'all. Please don't be silly. Y'all are smart enough to know what I'm talking about. All right? So it's been an hour and a half. I think I'm gonna cut this here. I holla. Stay safe. Stay dangerous.